During my usual lunch break on a Thursday afternoon, I received a call on my work phone, which I use to handle business calls. Before I tell you about that call, let me give you a quick insight into the type of business I run. I own a construction and renovation company that I inherited from my father before he passed away. My father and I were very close. Not a single weekend went by without us doing something fun together, like taking our motorcycles on long rides to other cities, going fishing, camping in the wilderness, or even hunting. I learned everything from him, especially construction and how to run a business. And after his passing, the only way I feel connected to him is by making this business thrive every single day and honoring his name as long as I'm alive. I answered the call,
Hello, is this David's construction company?
asked a woman on the other end. Yes, this is his son. How may I help you? I replied.
I just recently bought an off-grid house, and I'd love to renovate it. Is there a chance we could meet up, so you can see the house and give me a quote on how much it would cost?
She asked. Sure, I'll be there in a few minutes, I said after gathering the necessary information. I drove over as soon as I finished my meal, and when I arrived, the house immediately caught my attention. It was very old, as if it had been abandoned for decades. I got out of the car and greeted the woman, who looked fairly young, maybe in her mid-20s. I wondered briefly why she would go for a house like this, but then reminded myself that I was only here for business. Hi, I'm Chris, David's son. Shall we take a look? She greeted me, and we started with a walk around the property. It was on a large piece of land, which also included an old barn, a small garage, and a basement connected to the house. Strangely, the basement door had multiple padlocks on it. After our tour around the exterior, we headed inside. As I took my first step in, my heartbeat felt off, and my chest felt uneasy, as if something was disturbing about this house. If you don't mind me asking, why did you buy this house? Do you know anything about its history? I asked. She smiled, looking happy to be there. It belonged to my grandfather. Ever since he moved to another state, no one has been back here. My father inherited it a few years ago, but never bothered to return, since he works abroad. So I offered to buy it from him because I love the off-grid lifestyle and want to renovate this place to start a homestead. I smiled at her answer. It's rare to see someone so young speak passionately about living off-grid and starting a homestead. We walked from room to room, and I can't lie, every step I took sent chills down my spine, as if I was being watched. We eventually went back outside, and I gave her an estimate, warning her that the price might go up if we encountered any surprises that required new materials during the renovation. She agreed without hesitation, clearly eager to start living there as soon as possible. 2 days later, my team and I returned with our heavy equipment and tools. I split the team in two. One group would work on the exterior, while I, along with 2 others, would handle the interior. As we walked inside, that same sensation of horror washed over me, but I brushed it off and focused on the task at hand. About an hour in, I heard one of my guys calling my name from the door leading to the basement. Hey Chris, you might want to come down here and check this out. I stopped what I was doing and went downstairs. It was pitch black, so I used my flashlight, calling out my friend's name, but there was no response. Come on, man, we have work to do. I don't have time for these kinds of jokes, I said, still hearing nothing in return. I won't lie, I was terrified. My heart started racing, and something inside me whispered that the one who called me might not be my friend. Just as I turned to head back up the stairs, something strong grabbed my foot from between the steps, tripping me. Panicking, I pointed my flashlight up and saw a figure with bright red eyes, sharp teeth, and long hair, dressed in a flowing white cloth, moving toward me. I was petrified, unable to move, as though paralyzed from the waist down. I started screaming, hoping one of the workers would hear me, but the figure disappeared. Silence took over the enormous basement. After a brief moment, a vague, calming voice spoke out. Nobody will hear you down here. Don't worry, Chris. I'm not here to hurt you. I chose you from everyone else because I need your help. I looked around, still trying to inch away, struggling to understand what is happening, or who is even talking to me right now. Help. How could I possibly help you? And who are you? It replied, I am the spirit of the grandmother of the girl who bought this house. That frightening figure you saw is the evil spirit that's lived here since the house was abandoned. You see, after I died, my husband was devastated, so he brought in a woman who claimed she could connect him to my spirit. But she was a witch with evil intentions, who brought dark forces here. She believed there was a hidden treasure under the house, and planned to use black magic to drive us away, or worse, to kill us. I felt a warm hand on my shoulder, and when I looked, I saw an elderly woman, radiant with a soft, calming light. Her presence chased away the darkness, and the frightening figure vanished. I felt a sense of ease and protection. After I died, I discovered I had one mission left before my soul could be freed: to protect my family from the evil brought here. There really is a treasure, hidden long ago by the family that lived here before us. I found it by accident while exploring this basement, but it's guarded by an ancient spirit. When I first encountered it, I passed out and later woke up in my bed, unable to move or speak. Ever since that day, my health deteriorated until it eventually killed me. But as a spirit, I now understand that the chest in the basement contains enough gold to make my family wealthy for generations. The spirit continued. I influenced events to ensure that my granddaughter would call you, since your father and my husband were friends. I remember how kind-hearted you were as a child, though you may not remember me. I felt an urge to help, especially knowing her husband had been close friends with my father. I looked at her and said, "What do I need to do?" She smiled. I knew your kindness was genuine. She pointed to what I thought was just a wall decoration. When I removed it, I found a blade, a ceremonial one, with a ruby set in the handle and a black blade. As I picked it up, the whole basement began to shake as if it might collapse at any moment. "Don't be afraid, Chris," she reassured me. "I'll protect you from the spirit, but only someone marked by pure blood can break the lock on that chest, strike it with the blade, and it will end the demon guarding it." Suddenly, a dark figure appeared, rushing toward me. The old woman's spirit shielded me, and I gathered every ounce of strength to approach the chest. My father's spirit appeared beside me, along with her husband's, both helping to guide my hand. I started crying once I saw my father, but he said softly, "Don't cry, son. I know I raised a strong man." His words filled me with courage, and I drove the blade into the lock. The moment it shattered, a blinding light erupted, sending me sprawling. When I came to, my team was standing over me, laughing and asking what I was doing down there. They hadn't seen or heard anything unusual. I looked at the chest, and though it seemed like nothing had changed, I saw the spirits of the old woman, my father and her husband smiling, before vanishing. A few days later, the renovations were complete, and the young woman returned to inspect the work. Before leaving, I told her, "While working in the basement, I found an ancient chest with a note on it mentioning your name. You should go take a look. It might just make your homestead dream a reality." Moments later, I heard her shouts of joy, and I glanced to my left to see the spirit of the old woman. I could see a smile on her face. She mouthed, "Thank you," before disappearing.